Alright, today we're going to learn about transform again and envelope distort. Transform again is a very powerful operation. I'm going to start off by making a rounded rectangle. I put a gradient on here because I want to show that it has a little bit of form to it, lighter to darker. Alright, and I leave a stroke on it so I can at least see how it's going to be working. So I can see the outline of it. Transform again is, I use it all the time, especially when I'm making copies of things and trying to make patterns. So what we're going to do first is we're going to make a copy. We're going to move it, select it, move it to a new position. In this case, I'm moving it right next to it. I'm going to hold Shift so it stays aligned, and I'm going to hold down Alt to make a copy. Now that's the operation. That's what I've done, is move and copy. If I go to Object, Transform, Transform again, which is Control D. Remember that. Write that down. I've now got another one moved, copied in the exact same distance that I moved it before. If I press Control D, you now see that I have a bunch of segments all in a line, just like that. You can use this for many other things. What I use Transform again for a lot is when I'm using these other operations. Object, Transform, you can move, rotate, reflect, scale, and shear. I use move, rotate, and scale all the time when I'm making my designs. I'm just going to show you what rotate does. If I first go to the rotate tool and I'm going to change the vertice here. You see that little blue target? I'm going to change it to the bottom here of the object. I'm going to rotate this. As well as rotating, I'm going to hold down the Alt button. That makes a copy. That's the operation. I rotated. If I transform again, Control D, it rotates, makes a copy. So now I've got this operation going. I'm making kind of a fan. Pretty fun. Now I'm going to show you scale. I'm going to take this. I'm going to use the scale tool, which is here. Scale tool. I'm going to scale it up, or actually scale it kind of to the side and down like this. Press Alt, copies that. Now if I press Control D, alright, it could not scale it up because it was scaling up at the same amount as before. So this is the scale up tool. It's very helpful when you are making things like small circles. This is how I usually do it. No fill. I'm going to use the scale tool. Scale it up slightly to make a circle. Press Alt, Control D, and now I've got a fun looking, almost looks like sound waves coming at you. Alright? Transform again. That's the operation. Use it in good health. What I'm going to do with these segments now is I'm going to group them together. You can group things by going to right click, group, or Control G. Object, group, Control G, right here. And I'm going to make copies of this. I need 3 copies of this group. Hold down Alt to make a copy. I'm going to make it a little bit smaller so I can see it. So transform again. This is going to be the different envelope distort options. First thing we're going to do is learn about warp. To make a warp, you select the things that you want to warp. Go to Object, Envelope Distort, and Make with Warp. Now you'll notice there are 3 operations in here. Alright? Make with Warp, Make with Mesh, Make with Top Object. We're doing warp first, and then the warp options show up. Okay? Always preview this so you can see what it's doing. You can mess with the bend, percentage of the bend, and mess with the horizontal distortion, vertical distortion, and you can also change the style. There are different styles in here that you can work on. Alright? That are pretty interesting. I'm going to stick with arc for right now. That's just the warp that we're using initially. Press OK. When I select this, you'll now notice that I have a new menu up here that I can change the contents, edit the contents. So if I select that, you'll see the contents are turned on. Let's say I rotate the contents inside there. It's affecting the warp itself, isn't it? Alright? You can go back to the envelope itself, and then go back into the menu options which you just had. Right? Distortions, vertical, all these other types of things. You can even have the menu come up again if you need to. Envelope options. Um, going from there. That's warp. Play around with that. I'm going to make this a little bit smaller so it fits on the page when I'm printing. Feel good about that now. Okay. Put my name at the top too, so when I turn it in, it's there. Now I'm going to do the mesh is the next operation. Make a copy of this. So I'm ready to make my mesh. I'm going to go to Object, Envelope Distort, Make with Mesh. Preview it. I'm going to use just 3 rows and 3 columns for right now. You can use as many as you want. Less is better. Remember, this is just like the mesh tool that we use with the curtain assignment. You make meshes and then you move those mesh points around, those mesh control points around. I'm pressing OK. Go to the direct selection tool. This is the tool that moves points and curves. All right. So now if I move them, you see that they are warping inside of there. All right. You can move that mesh around, and the objects underneath inside of that envelope are going to do their best to fit to the shape that you are making. You twist this around, and it really does some interesting effects. All right, that's our mesh. Envelope Distort, mesh. Now the last operation, I'm going to go ahead and learn about making with top object. Making with top object means just that. You have to make an object to go on top of this that this group of objects is going to fit into. All right, I'm going to make a interesting looking horn, maybe. I don't know. Let's see if we can do that. All right, there's a interesting looking shape. I'm going to see if it's got to be on top of the object below, right? Make with top object, so it's above this. I'm going to select both things, make a marquee around them, or actually press Shift and hold down Shift and select both of them. Go to Object, Envelope Distort, make with top object, and it's going to do its best to fit inside there. And I see it kind of went outside of there. All right, you may need to edit the contents a little bit, or go to your envelope options and mess with the fidelity. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Let's see if I preview this. It's trying its best to fit in there, but there's still a discrepancy with this one. Don't worry about that. It did a pretty good job. If I double click on there, I can get back to the contents and see what happens. All right. There's some very interesting effects. Practice with these. This is a warm-up. Should only take you 5 to 10 minutes. Please label each operation that you've done and turn it in. Print it out and turn it in with your name. Good luck.